Okay. Another things, when we are trying to talk about producer theory, one of the difference between producer theory and consumer theory is that in producer theory, firms are operating in different types of market. Firms are operating in competitive market, they are operating in monopoly market, they are operating in duopoly market, or they are operating in oligopoly market. So when they are operating in different types of markets, so they are using different method of profit maximization. For the utility maximization, it was easier because like in the case of classical way, we think that each person, they maximize their profit in isolation just by using some optimal bundle. But when it comes to firm, when they operate in different types of market, they have different behavior to maximize their utility. And one of the most common market is the perfect competitive market, or the perfect competitive firm. What the perfect competitive firm means, the firm that produce or operate in a perfect competitive market. In the case of competitive firm, so when we talk about the competitive firm here, it means the firm operate in a perfect competitive input and output market. When we are operating in a perfect competitive market, it means we are price taker. Price is already given by the market. We do not have that power to change the price. The price of input is already given, and also the price of output is already given. And we need to maximize our profit based on the given input and output price that is already there. So what we are going to do, we are going to find out the optimal level of output that maximize our profit level with the given level of input and output prices. For example, when we have a dairy company that produce, like for example, we produce cheese, we produce yogurt. When produce cheese, this is our output, and the price of this output is P. It's already given by the market. That 1 kg of cheese is how much? It's already given. We cannot sell more than that. Why we cannot sell more than that? Because every other firm in the market, they sell that price. If we sell more than that price, so no one will buy from us. And we are not willing to sell less than that price. Why? Why we are not selling less than that price? Because if we sell less than that price, because that is the price level, that the profit is zero. So if we set up less than that price, it means we are having negative profit. So we are not willing to do that. So then the price is given. And also, in this production process, we need labor. And when we hire labor, we need to give some price to the labor in order to work for us. And that price is typically, we use the notation of W, which is this W stands for wages. And also, when we use some capital in our production process, also that capital has some prices. We need to pay the prices, which we use the notation of R, which this R stands for rent. So when we are talking about perfect competitive firm, it means for the perfect competitive firm, the price of final output, which is your cheese, is given, and also the price of labor and capital, which is W and R, is also given. You do not have the power to change. You have to set up your maximum level of output based on the given input and output prices to maximize your profit. So basically, in the case of producer theory, either it's a perfect competitive, it's monopoly, it's oligopoly, or it's duopoly, all of them are trying to maximize their profit. All of them are going to maximize their profit. What is the profit then? First of all, we need to define the profit. The profit, which mostly we use the notation of pi, is equal to revenue minus cost. Revenue minus cost. And this pi is equal to how we can find out the revenue. Revenue is the price multiplied by the quantity of output. The quantity of output. What is the cost then? The cost, it comes from your labor and capital combination. So then here, the cost is equal to W multiplied by L plus R multiplied by K. Then here it's negative sign, this is minus WL minus RK. Minus WL minus RK. So this is our revenue. And this portion is our cost. So we subtract the cost from the revenue, what will remain is our profit. In a general way, if we are producing just only one output, then our output is Y. Our output is Y. But we are producing this output by a combination of input. So in a simple case, we assume that we only have two input, which is L and K, labor and capital. But in reality, we use many input. We use labor, capital, raw material. We use like entrepreneurship, natural resources, and many things else. So in that case, our cost is this one. Is the sum of Wi, Xi, I from 1 to H. As you know, this H comes from the net input that we already talked about in the start of the session. So this Wi is input price. Is input price. This input price for the case of labor is W. And this input price for the case of capital is R. And this Xi is our input. It can be labor, it can be capital, it can be X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, or a different combination. But such that we have to think about this one. Both the input and output should be in our production possibility set. It should not be out of the range that we have access to that. It should be within the range that we have access. Let me tell you some other things in case of perfect competitive firm. When we have like our profit, which is revenue minus cost, as already we done the process, when we are going to maximize this profit, so we need to take the partial derivative. So then the partial derivative of pi with respect to quantity, because we are maximizing our profit based on some level of quantity. So then is equal to the partial derivative revenue with respect to some quantity and minus the partial derivative of cost with respect to some quantity. And our first order condition should satisfy this one, which should be equal to 0. So it means this, the partial derivative of pi with respect to q should be 0. Then we have this equation, this part. Then the partial derivative of revenue with respect to the partial derivative quantity should be equal to the partial derivative of cost with respect to quantity. And we know that the partial derivative of revenue with respect to quantity is marginal revenue. So then the marginal revenue is equal to the partial derivative of cost with respect to quantity is our marginal cost. So in order to maximize our profit, the marginal revenue should be equal to the marginal cost. Should be equal to the marginal cost. And also, this revenue is equal to price multiplied by the quantity that we produce. By the quantity that we produce. And also, when we are talking about perfect competitive producer, the price is given already for the perfect competitive producer. Then our revenue should be just a function of Q because the price is already given. So we can write down revenue as a function of Q, which is equal to P multiplied by Q. P multiplied by Q. So now, if we take the derivative of this revenue with respect to Q, which is like the partial derivative of R Q with respect to Q, will be equal to what? If you take the derivative of this part with respect to Q, what will remain? P. So then, let me use some different color. Here, already we know that the partial derivative of revenue with respect to Q is what? Is the marginal revenue. So then the marginal revenue is equal to P. When the marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost and also marginal revenue is equal to P, then the marginal cost should be equal to P. The marginal cost should be equal to P. So this is the profit maximization condition for the perfect competitive firm. It will not work for other firms. For monopoly and oligopoly, they have different conditions, because in oligopoly and monopoly, they have market power. And they try to set their prices more than marginal revenue, more than marginal cost. But in case of perfect competitive, the profit maximization condition is this one. That the marginal revenue is equal to the marginal cost and is equal to the price. Is equal to the price. So this is the condition for profit maximization in the case of perfect competitive firm.